set every day with a smile on my face.
Captain America Brave New World is, or was if you're in the future, the first Marvel movie of 2025. There we see Anthony Mackie debuting as the lead in this movie since the mantle was passed on to him for Captain America. Then we have Red Hulk and whatnot. And of course, Disney, Marvel is doing the age-old racist gimmick of seeing a black dude in a trailer and putting rap music behind it because it's 2025. We got to keep perpetuating those stereotypes, right? Jesus Christ. Anyway, while I like Anthony Mackie, I've seen him in other things. I liked him in other things. Maybe it's just the Marvel burnout, but this isn't really doing it for me. Thunderbolts looks good though. I do really want to see that. And I know people are going to say, well, this is the trailer. You haven't even seen the movie, brah. Just wait till the movie comes out. I know I have to say this over and over again, but people are allowed to review a trailer and say their opinion whether or not they like it. You can have a good trailer and a bad movie. You can have a bad trailer and a good movie. This whole thing of people censoring people saying, well, don't say anything about the trailer. Bro, you're on here in the comment section for the purpose of reviewing the trailer. What is your issue? All I'm saying is keep that same energy for the people saying this trailer looks good. Why don't these people keep the same energy by saying, bro, you haven't even seen the movie yet. How are you going to say the trailer is good? It's a trailer. People are allowed to say it's good or bad. Relax. Jesus. Anyway, I know I've said this before, but I'm not the only one who finds there to be some kind of void. It just feels strange, Falcon being thrown into this role, and I've already said why, but for people who are just seeing this video or don't know who I am, I'm not gonna expect you to comb through the over 1,000 videos I have to find that video. So I figured I'd just put it all in one place here. Now, mind you, I'm not one of those professional video essay people, so it's not gonna look neat and polished. I'm just a regular person. So here are my issues. Raw.
It's fucking raw!
One of the biggest issues I have with Anthony Mackie's portrayal, Mackie's portrayal of Captain America, Falcon as we know him, is, and this is the biggest one for me, his character's never given an origin story. Like, we have 4 Captain America type movies, right? And when you look at Steve Rogers, he had a whole movie dedicated to showing us his journey. Even in the movies where Bucky Barnes is featured, we got an established foundation between him and Steve. Their relationship was built over time. And so the emotional stakes were very clear because we saw where they were coming from. We saw how it was built, the origin of it, all the way from way back when. With Falcon, though, it feels like he was just thrown into the story as a supporting character, almost like a backdrop prop without any meaningful development. I mean, his introduction was him going on a morning run and Captain America beating him out, saying on your left, and them having a friendly competition. That was it. Just him realizing that, wow, this guy is way better than me. That was his introduction. And if it weren't for Anthony Mackie and his good-looking ass, he would honestly be kind of forgettable. Most of the iconic Marvel heroes got their own movies. Iron Man, Thor, I mean, even freaking Captain Marvel, Black Panther, all the notable heroes that end up playing really big parts, they had their own movies. They were introduced through their own stories. Falcon was not. He never really had his moment or his origin story. He was legitimately second class, second best supporting character. That was it. He was there to tag. He was introduced in Captain America the Winter Soldier. It's not a fully realized character, just there to back up Steve and serve as a loyal sidekick like Rhodey. I know they gave him military backstory and all of that, but it wasn't really explored in a way that made him feel like complete, like everybody else. Like I said, side character energy. That was it. And so now you're telling me that this person is now playing a huge lead role as a Captain America himself. Not Falcon, but he's now the new Captain America. He's not even a freaking super soldier. He didn't even want the shield. If you had watched most of the very cringy Disney Plus Falcon and the Winter Soldier kind of situation where Bucky kind of took a backseat, I did a review on that as well as why it was so annoying. He didn't even want the shield, bro. Steve Rogers, that was his last wish, to pass it on to this guy, and he didn't even want it. Bucky was telling him throughout the early portion, hey man, what are you doing? Steve gave you this, and you're gonna just throw it away and give it away. They honestly made his character look like a a wussy. And they did the same thing with Bucky's character, which made it very annoying. It was some weird activism thing that was going on with this, where they wrote his character in such a way that didn't feel like Falcon. It didn't feel like Bucky. To me, honestly, it feels like, imagine Tom Holland's Spider-Man, right? If he retired and then handed the mantle to his best friend, Ned, and then imagine if Ned, because he created some cool invention, suddenly became the next Spider-Man and was expected to carry an entire movie. It wouldn't feel right, because the audience hasn't seen Ned grow into that role. It's the same with Falcon. Just because a dude has wings and fought alongside Steve doesn't mean he's ready to take on the legacy of Captain America. There was no proper payoff. There's no emotional build-up or narrative foundation to make it feel like it was earned. By the way, I know, off topic, but this whole scene where Ned found out that Tom Holland's Spider-Man was Spider-Man, it was kind of stupid, because like, where's your spider senses? You would have felt that somebody was in the room with you watching you, but anyway, I guess he only has that for danger, but whatever. It should have been passed to Bucky, because that's how they were building it up. And I don't care if people are going to be like, well, in the comics, it's not like that. We're not talking about the comics. It's called the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's a lot of liberties that the movies have taken from the comics, things that they've altered from the comics. So can we not go there? So annoying when people try to use that argument. Like, dude. But like I was saying, it made more sense because Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes, they had an emotional foundation. Their dynamic was already deeply explored. We watched them grow together, fight together, experience loss together. Everybody would have been on board with Bucky being the new Captain America. Especially with the way it ended, bro. Like, come on. Redemption is supposed to be a big part of that. Look how many other heroes had fallen at the wayside and have done horrible things, or they had to come back, and they still had their hero arc. Same thing with Iron Man and Spider-Man. He lost himself there for a moment. I know Bucky did a lot of horrible things, but there's a lot of heroes where accidents happen and they did horrible things and had to redeem themselves as well, so why not Bucky? Especially when you realize that he was a victim. And now he's being punished for something that he wasn't even in control of. He overcame this. I mean, everything was leading up until him being an ultimate main character, and the setup was there. And it's like they were trying to subvert expectations for the purpose of doing it, or they felt as though they were going to be racist or something if they passed on the baton to another white dude. I don't know. That's just the feeling I'm getting, because it is Disney that we're talking about. But yeah, the relationship between Bucky and Steve over multiple movies, the arc felt integral to the story of Captain America. It was woven into it. That's how it started. And Falcon and Steve, I'm sorry, their relationship never reached that level of depth, and it probably never will. So when Joe Biden, Steve, what the hell, chose to pass the shield to Sam instead of Bucky, it just didn't feel as natural or impactful as it should have. Many people were like, what? Wait, what? I was feeling like that. And what's more frustrating is that Falcon, he wasn't given the attention or the proper screen time or, I don't know, the oomph to make him feel like a central figure. There's no emotional depth with him. He's just kind of there. His presence didn't carry the weight that the other characters had. Kind of how Hawkeye feels to me. Much as he's a sweet person, I'm sorry, but Hawkeye's kind of a forgettable character to me. He's just the archer of the team. Nothing really like special about him in comparison to all the other members that are there. And then his whole thing is him being passed on or passing the baton on anyway to some female character or a daughter or somebody else. So yeah, that's kind of what it feels like for Falcon. Like, Marvel expects us to accept these characters as suddenly lead characters just because, oh, they were there all along. That's not enough though. The lack of development, it just makes this sudden really big promotion feel like it's this forced narrative decision than natural progression. And you kind of saw them starting to do that near the ending of Game of Thrones as well, where certain things just did not feel natural, felt like they had just thrown everything they built up, all the character foundations, to the wayside for the purpose of God knows what. And like I mentioned before with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I guess they could have tried to address some of those issues, but it didn't deliver. They were going along some other things with the whole terrorist stuff, and it just got bogged down with all these other unnecessary plot lines, and it made the transition to the role feel even more rushed and superficial, which goes against the very heart of how Captain America started. Bro, they could have given him a solo movie or a more focused series that would have explored his background properly, his motivations, and what makes him worthy of the shield. I know they tried to do that in the show, but it failed. They could have shown us why Steve trusted him so much to take the mantle, not just something that he says, like, oh, you deserve it. Like, show us Show us why. And they skipped through all of that. It felt like we were missing an entire movie. At the end of the day, my issue isn't with Anthony Mackie. Like I said, I like Anthony Mackie. Or even Sam Wilson as a character. It's how Marvel handled his story. And that's why people are seeing this, and a lot of people are saying, yo, without a proper origin or meaningful development, Falcon suddenly becoming Captain America feels very abrupt and undeserved. They're just like, we'll just give it to you just because. Like, oh, we'll feel sorry for you. That's how it comes across. They didn't give him the same care and attention they gave to Steve Rogers, Tony Stark, Peter Parker, Bucky Barnes. They didn't give any of that to him. It just felt like a shortcut to just put him in there as some kind of vice president waiting for the next president to come along. And that's a disservice to not just the character, but the legacy of Captain America, and honestly to the actor as well. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not interested in seeing Brave New World. For me, there was no adequate build-up for me to care. There was no emotional investment with this character for me to care about the character enough to want to see a movie that he's taking the lead role in. What they should have been doing is coming out with an origin story for him, which they dropped the ball on that one. So now it just feels awkward. Anyway, I'm glad that Anthony Mackie's having fun, but honestly, especially with the state of Disney and Marvel nowadays, I really don't see this movie doing well. And I don't know how things look in the future over there for those of you watching, but if 2025 is starting and this movie has flopped, it doesn't seem like it's going to look like it was a very good year for the MCU either. And also, this whole passing on of the baton thing, can we stop? Like, if characters get to the point where they're no longer able to carry up the mantle, you can just let them die. Like, this is the MCU, you can just let them die and introduce new characters. Like, imagining Wolverine dies and it's like, let's put a new Wolverine. While I understand that might happen and that might be commonplace in the comic book medium, it doesn't really transfer well in the movie cinematic medium. People get very attached. It takes way longer to see these movies, for these movies to come out over time. Feels more real to the general audience, not just comic book fans. So people don't like their characters just being replaced, especially when there's no emotional depth or earning. But maybe I'm being too harsh.
Your inner circle's been compromised. Let me fix it.
Watch yourself. You're not Steve Rogers.
You're right. I'm not.